chew every champagne. Sorry for exposing you. But I do that too. And it's not a bad thing. It's a good thing because someone else does it. So I think for me, the biggest takeaway is honesty today. So thank you for this, Noma.
Thank you. So honesty and still looking fab in the process, right? Looking fab in the process. So this is Noma. Noma. I told her she should show the time. Like I've been telling her, show us.
Every time I'm like,
so you shouldn't be shy, right? So this is Noma, and I'm going to allow her to introduce herself. But when I was going through her profile, you notice that in her profile, the first thing she says about herself is that she's a mathematician. And when we were talking, I realized the connection between the maths and how she is now in business. She's currently, you see that you're currently on a program in Joburg, where they're continuously also learning about their business and they're growing in that specific business. The plan actually, I was telling her this morning that the plan was I'm going to invite her to come for this session, and then afterwards we're best friends. That's what I decided. I'm like, after this, we're best friends, we're going to talk, I'm going to harness that relationship up until she's actually giving me the information. Because she's got information, I've got information, but I want the information that she has, right? And I'm gonna give her everything from my table up until she's under pressure to actually also start giving. And that's one lesson that I've learned as well, that sometimes before you expect somebody to give you, it's a good thing to actually pour into it, right? Before we go to Noma, I just wanna share a quick testimony again. Samantha is the one in charge with Mbala of all this beautiful decor, right? The first time I met Sam, she took me out for coffee, if I'm not wrong. And can I just say, I was so broke when she took me out for that coffee. She doesn't know. But I just looked the part, went with my handbag, and then I sat there on the table. She's like, you inspire me. And I thought, you're buying me coffee. In my head, I thought, I think I only had like, what was it, $500 for me to go back home. So after she said I inspired her, I just thought, okay. We had coffee, we enjoyed coffee, until today, that relationship stemmed from a coffee meeting. So there's lots of other coffee meetings that need to happen after this. Don't be afraid to take somebody for coffee. Don't be afraid to even pay for that coffee. Maybe they're like me. You inspire them, but they might not have the $5 to pay for the coffee, but you never know where God is actually taking us. Because now, we're no longer there, right? No. Started from bottom, now we're here, right? All right, so let's go. Noma. Noma's a beast, right? So we've been talking since yesterday, and she's sharing this and that. So please introduce yourself. I'm not gonna introduce you. I'm not gonna do justice. Tell us about you.
okay, that's probably the most difficult thing to be told, like introduce yourself. But hi everyone, my name is Noma. Thank you. Okay, so Nomaliso, I'm actually born, bred and raised in Bulawayo. Literally left the city to go to uni in Harare. I was meant to come back, marriage found me. I'm one of those women that's going to be like, my husband, my husband, my husband. So please roll your eyes now, what is out, right? Just roll them and let it be, right? Because I'm gonna mention him quite a number of times. But I'm a tech entrepreneur. And I know that that's not the first thing that if you read my bio, you would see. Because if you Google me, you'd likely see me in a field and I'm doing agricultural work. But I use technology to solve problems within the agribusiness sector, right? And because it's so difficult to say to people, I'm a tech entrepreneur, and everyone's like, so what does a tech entrepreneur do? You know, I then say I'm a farmer, but I manage a company that is called Fresh in a Box. We aggregate fresh produce from smallholder farmers, mostly in Harare for now. I'm working with currently 2,850 something farmers, and we aggregate that produce to sell to people's homes every day and also sell to other businesses. That's pretty much what I do. But that is not the easiest thing to do without the help of technology, and that is where I make my money, in the technology, not in the delivering of business. The delivering of vegetables is for the farmers that I work with.
Yeah. So when you were telling me about how the business actually started. You said you're walking into the kitchen, you find your husband putting vegetables in a box, and then he tells you that we're starting a new business and it's going to be called Fresh in a Box. Tell us about that.
Okay, so to start off with, my husband is a sorry, I'm supposed to drink water. I apologize. Yeah. So he's a multi-talented person that does a lot of things, right? So he's been whistling this tune for the longest time. I think at the time I was like 8 months pregnant, and I'm starting to get annoyed by this tune. But it subsequently becomes the tune for what the Fresh in a Box jingle is. The Fresh in a Box, Fresh in a Box. That's the one. But he keeps whistling it, and I'm like, this guy. But anyway, we did this greenhouse project of tomatoes with our friend called Rufaro, who's now our co-founder at Fresh in a Box. And now we have these tomatoes. Mind you, we are very well-connected people, if I can say that, right? I'm from uni. I know many students in Mount Pleasant that could use tomatoes, so I'm like, we're gonna sell this. My husband was a brand manager at Spa International. So he's like, with all of these Spa shops, surely I could sell these tomatoes. We had a plan to go to market, so that was not a problem. Finally, the tomatoes are ready and we don't have a way to sell them, right? And now we're like, okay, what are we going to do about these tomatoes? Then notorious Mr. Twitter goes to Twitter and says, guys, I've got tomatoes, anyone wants tomatoes, I'll bring them to your house and you can give me whatever money you want to give them, because we now needed to get rid of them, right? And from there, about 15 to 18 other people came into the inbox and they said, I've got courgettes, I've got lettuce, I've got spinach, I've got carrots, you know, but I don't know how to sell them. And all of us were growing pretty much in a not more than 300 square meter space, right? And so we brought it in together. And that's when I come down. Now I've given birth to my daughter. She's literally 8 to 9 days old. I'm coming down from a C-section. It's my first time coming down the stairs. I get downstairs and I'm hearing somebody whistling that jingle. I'm like, what's going on? And it's like, we're starting a business. It's gonna be called Fresh in a Box. Like, get it? It's fresh vegetables in a box. So I'm like, okay. And because I know my person, we just finished selling hoodies that we called Zoodies during election season. We lost badly at the election that we're supporting, but we just sold some hoodies online and, you know, it's tiding us over. I'm like, I'm going to turn around from this and go back to the room. But that's how Fresh in a Box was birthed. From there, it was, wife, the phone calls are coming up and there's so many of them, right? And I'm like, okay, we need to find a way to manage this. And that's how we built our e-commerce platform. Believe it or not, within the first 7 days of selling a Fresh in a Box, the biggest marketers of the business were the ordinary housewife of Harare, who said, if I give you guys my 20 RTGS via EcoCash, will you actually deliver? And they didn't believe until we got in front of their house and said, here is your delivery. It was beautiful, fresh veg that was in huge quantities, beautiful quality, and we promised them that we will consistently bring it for as long as you press www.freshinabox.co.zw and order. It was a literally 2-button site, right? Yeah.
Let's talk about the money. Where was the money going? Because I like when we're talking about this, you spoke about how you say to your husband that he said we're going to make a profit of $10 per box, but there was other hidden costs, which speaks into the importance of actually having structure in a business. Because we think that, okay, maybe I'm going to run a training and I'm going to charge the client $2,000. Probably my profit, I'm thinking, is 1.1. Why is it important for us to think about the detail when it comes to where all the costs are going? And if I'm not a mathematician, where do I start and where do I find that information?
Okay. So the story behind that is, right, we're starting a business, it's going to be Fresh in a Box. We're charging $20 because we've agreed that we're going to share, everyone's product is going to be 50 cents a box, right? Remember the 16, 18 people that I told you about? The box was made up of literally 10 products plus our tomatoes. And we didn't care about our tomatoes because we're eating the other $10, right? So we told everyone, when you bring your product, just you know that if I say I've got 10 boxes today, I'm giving you 50 cents of that product. 20 cents is the price of spinach, guys. Spinach guy was happy. 75 cents is the price of a punnet of baby marrow. Baby marrow guy was not too happy, but because his baby marrows were now courgettes, he was happy to do with just giving us the courgettes and not the baby marrow. So everyone was happy. We're sharing equal. 50 cents everybody per box, and if we're selling 50 boxes that day, everybody goes home happy. If we're selling 200 boxes a day, everyone goes happy, right? But what we didn't understand was, what exactly is the contribution of each veg to the box? And now that I've said, all right, 50 cents everybody, and I've got a 12 vegetable standard box, what is the cost of the box that I'm putting the vegetables in? What's the cost of the plastic that I'm putting the plastics in? What is the cost of the sellotape that put the box together for it to hold together? What's the cost of the fuel? What's the cost of the data that I use to access my e-commerce platform? Nobody ever spoke about that. All we knew was that $10 profit, we're eating highest margin at the top, right? Until came a time where we had to start defining it as a business. And our mentor, his name is Marcus Antitakas, then called us and said, I see what you guys are doing, this is pretty cool, but I also know that pretty cool does not make business, right? So come here. And then he said, I will tell you how much it costs to make a loaf of bread. He broke it down from the flour, the wheat flour, the mixture with the cake flour, the water, how the water has to be purified for the correct, the yeast, the quantities of yeast, and he said, this is the X amount of the bread. Sorry, I can't tell you guys because you stopped buying bread. This is the X amount of a loaf of bread. So go back and tell me, what is the amount of making the box? I want to know the cost of the plastics, if you're putting plastics, if you're going to reconsider plastics, what's your alternative and why is it cheaper than your plastic? By the time we sat down, guys, the cost of a box was $15.63. I remember $15.63 was the cost of a box sitting here. I haven't delivered it to your house. We used to be free delivery, guys. If I tell you guys when we stopped doing free deliveries, you laugh at me. I delivered vegetables all the way to Bulawayo for free. Right? But in the later game, it makes sense. But we needed to know that kind of price. So we delivered for free for literally 1 year when we were starting our business. It made sense because remember, some of my customers were in England, some were in Australia, some were in the US. Nobody, even to date, can still collect money for a product outside of the country as fast as we do and deliver product as fast as we do, right? So because of that, we then said, yes, the margin is no longer 50% margin, but can we live with ourselves with that $4.37 is our profit per box, and we will every day work hard to at least sell 60 boxes of standard vegetables to people's homes. That made our life comfortable.
You spoke about standard vegetables, and you and I yesterday spoke about inconsistencies when it comes to the product. How did you deal with that? Because you're dealing with 2,500 farmers. Are all of them bringing you the right kind of product? And when they don't, what happens?
Again, it's another story. Sorry guys, I'm a storyteller. So because of remember the 16 guys that we started off with, right? By Thursday of the week, they no longer have product. I now need to find more product. And these 16 are not any unique, there are many of them. And because we've been very loud on social media, there's more people coming in and saying, I have product, right? And to my dismay, there's a guy who gets featured in Herald with a beautiful double cab and says, I bought this double cab cash out of Toyota by Samora Machel in Harare because I grew cabbages. Guess what all of the farmers did? We had cabbages. 3 months later, 90 days. If you're growing Fabiola, 65 days. If you're growing 3311, you are at 90 days, right? They all had cabbages. Now they are all calling me with their cabbage. Hi, I've got cabbage. What do I do with cabbage when I need 16 different types of vegetables in the box to deliver before dinner time tomorrow, right? So we had to create a grower schedule and say, here is a website, go and write your name, your surname, your phone number, and your WhatsApp number, and tell me if you can deliver to my warehouse. I want to know what you grow. That was the first establishment. Everyone came in growing tomatoes, some growing carrots. Then I started saying, okay, how big is your land? Where are you growing from? Do you have certain irrigation? You today are now a carrot farmer. Here is your manual for growing carrots. I want you to grow carrots on 300 square meters, and I'm going to come and collect it on a 90 days from now. Will be what, 31 December? No, well, that's even in January. We have 71 days left in the year, right? So if it's a cabbage, for instance, if you're growing Fabiola, I'm going to come and collect it on Christmas Day, right? That's how I've worked with all of those farmers. So they didn't become 2,500 and they all didn't have direction, because I would have lost my head. I had to have a grower schedule and say, this is how you grow. I want you to put 5 grams of ammonium nitrate at every planting station. I don't want anyone who's just going to say, I'm fertilizer, same farm. You're going to put it on day number 7, you're going to put it on day number 14, and you're going to put it on day number 21. After that, water consistently, and I want you to water for 1 hour on drip irrigation. I want you to water for 2.5 hours on overhead irrigation, right? How specific I am about the growing means that when you bring the product and it does not look like the product that I grow at the fresh farm, you did something wrong. And if you do something wrong, I will not offtake that product because it does not speak to the quality that Fresh in a Box offers. I can't afford to do that, because if I do that, I have return. So it's taken a lot of specificity. And also to the farmer, if you grow the way I'm saying that you're growing, you're going to grow the cabbage at 10 cents a cabbage. I'm going to offtake it from you even at 35 cents a cabbage. You know that you're already making 1.5 times more money than you would have. And you don't need to be told by a guy at the market how much a cabbage costs. But if you want to do it your way and your direction, by all means, they always circle back.
So before I go to my next question, I'd like to give anybody who would be interested in possibly asking Noma questions. So Noma, you've spoken about structure. So one of the things that I'm hearing you really emphasizing on is structure, process in the business that you're going to start. And I think that's the same thing as well that Amal spoke into. And I will say, I think personally, I've not necessarily been a structured person, but it's a skill that I've also had to learn. I hate doing it, but how important is that structure and paying attention to detail in your business?
It's very important, and it's a bad way to answer the question, but it helps you know, like Amal said, that don't harvest when it's not time for you to harvest. It helps you know when is harvest time. And I know I spoke about it in the farming sense, but it also applies in the financial sense. Now that you know that I'm only earning this much from a cabbage, tomorrow when I want to go buy Noma a coffee, coffees are quantified in cabbage or broccoli heads. I am going to spend 100 broccolis for Noma to have a coffee. Can I actually afford to take Noma for a coffee? Right? I am spending 200 kgs of carrots to take a nonsi for lunch at a roasted beef, because our lunch bill is going to come out at whatever amount it is. It's $35 that I'm budgeting. What does it look like? And that 35 or those 200 kgs of carrots that I'm talking about is not 200 kgs of income of carrots. It's 200 kgs of profits from carrots, because I have to go back and replant. Because if I don't replant, which means that the next time I'm not going to be able to connect with the next person and buy them the lunch that I need. So it is very important, because you start to understand your life. I have 2 daughters. One is sub 2, so I buy Pampers. Pampers cost me 35 cabbages, guys. I am very clear about what it is, and I use cabbages because it's an easy method to explain to my farm workers, to my husband, and to everybody else that I have to work with. So even when a off-takes something and I have to call them 3 times, I'm like, I've already used 2 cabbages to call you. Are you paying it back? Because it's now very important. So when I now put an interest on an overdue invoice, you understand where that interest is coming from. I'm not just trying to be sneaky about the money. I need you to know that everything and every cent that goes into my wallet is already tagged into its purpose.
Yeah.
And I can't afford to make the wrong moves. When we get to excess, by all means, we'll spend luxurious.
Okay, before we come to the ladies, how has your experience been since you now have your own farm? Because before, the farmers were coming to you. Now that you have your own farm, you're technically now also a farmer. How was that experience now running the farm and having to actually plant the farm and understand the process, or at least the experience that your farmers are going through?
Worst mistake of my life. I didn't need to be a farmer, but I had to understand the path in which a horticultural farmer walks in. I then made the mistake because an opportunity that was not maybe meant to be mine presented itself as a farm. And who doesn't want to live in a farmhouse? I'm sure all of you guys are like, one day I want to go live in a farmhouse. It's a beautiful farmhouse, and I'm like, why not? I mean, I could probably figure it out. What's hard to hack? So because of that opportunity, plus the struggle that I had, that I was too academic about the grower's schedule that I was talking about. I didn't understand the journey in which the farmer went. I paid a good MBA fee in becoming a farmer. I have lost 150,000 United States dollars to farming. I call that my MBA. It's just that I don't have a certificate from Harvard, but actually with that amount of money, it could be a Harvard certificate. That's how much I've lost to farming. But the lessons that I have carried through, I believe for every farmer that I'll ever interact with, is what is going to save them from also losing their own 100,000 or 150,000. And I'm willing to share that because I know the value that I can extract from the farmers that I work with. So that has been my worst life decision, but the best defining decision. If it wasn't for that farm, I don't think I would be sitting here. It called me the farmer that I am today.
I like that. Sam, and we have another question. Oh, okay.
Mine is not really a question, but I'm just gonna shoot my shot. So I work for a seedling house, and I do understand the importance of having seedlings on time if you're going to have your product in time for the market. And my question is, do you have a seedling house that you are working with, since you already have farmers that you are working with?
Well, I do, but then it's not enough, right? We work with Tanaka Seedlings. I don't know if you know her.
Okay.
So she timelessly has to do the seedlings for the farmers. So again, we've created pretty much a monopoly that if you want to be a farmer in the grower scheme, right? If you're not getting your seedlings from a trusted seedling provider, I generally don't want to offtake your product because I'm not sure about the quality. So Gobulawayo at the moment, no, we don't have that. And because of COVID, we were unable to expand as fast as we wanted to throughout the country, so which is the journey that we're doing now, post-COVID.
Okay.
Yeah. So I'm happy for us to have that conversation. I'm happy for you to be the seedling house for Fresh in a Box here. I was talking to Nonsi. She's likely going to be aggregating Gweru to Bulawayo. So, you know what? Let's have the conversation.
Thank you so much. We'll be doing your seedlings in Malawi.
Thank you so much for the conversation, and I think first I have a comment. I love how you spoke about the importance of, I define it as staying in your lane. You know what works for you, and you're not a jack of all trades. You tried something and then you realized that it's probably not working for me. Let me stick to what I know and what I am good at. And the second thing is, I think it's a very important thing to stick to your profit margins. So if you're in the supply chain, whatever level you're at, understanding that enriching your supplier is actually increasing your profits and benefiting you. So it does no harm, but actually more good for you to say to your supplier, hey, come for the money, Soiree, or hey, there's this that can actually make your products better.